Welcome back, kiddies, to another exciting Lord Duckman production. Some of you might remember I did a quickie video where I was fitting a VW rear end to my Candy go-kart. I was quite surprised at the interest that video had gathered, so today I'd like to do a follow-up since I've got all the parts in to continue some machining and do an assembly mock-up. If that all works out, I should have a working rear axle and a trailing arm by the end of this video. But before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the HIPAA store. It's been brought to my attention by other YouTubers that have run similar ad spots for the HIPAA store that HIPAA may actually be pronounced HIPAA. Well, I'm not sure, but there is one thing that I'm very sure of, and that's that the HIPAA store will always be there to get my small engines back up and running with their assortment of quality replacement parts. The HIPAA store is a company that sells components for lawnmowers, chainsaws, and other outdoor power equipment. And since go-karts share some of the same parts, that means that HIPAA also has some parts for go-karts. Well, the warm season is upon us here in Florida, and we've already been mowing our lawns for a couple months. So get out there and check your mowers, and here's why. HIPAA is running a huge $9.90 two-for sale. Yep, certain items that are already on sale for only $9.90, you'll get a second one for free. I mean, seriously, that's a hard one to beat. Check out the HIPAA store for my affiliate links down below in the video description, and know that when you support the HIPAA store, you also support the production of my videos. So special thanks again to the HIPAA store, and thanks to everyone that supports us. Thanks for watching, and likey, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back right after that intro. Alright, just a quick recap as to what we've got going on. We've got this go-kart trailing arm right here. We got this Volkswagen axle. I'd like to mate it up with a Volkswagen IRS CV joint and axle here. And this needs to go into this swing arm just like this. So in order to install that, I already got grease all over me. I pulled this Chinese bearing out of here. And this Chinese bearing I discovered real quickly, it's the wrong inside diameter. It's way too big. But when I pulled the Volkswagen bearing out of a trailing arm, I discovered it's the same outside diameter. It's the correct inside diameter for that, but it's slightly thicker by 1 millimeter. But that should be enough to get it on in here. So I grabbed a set of 2 sealed bearings so we could put it inside this arm just like that. And then inside of there needs to go a spacer. This is the spacer that came out of this arm, which is clearly too big. This is the Volkswagen spacer that came out of a trailing arm, which is the right size. But, once again, we're looking at a problem with the thickness of the thing. So, I need to actually cut this, and I need to make 2 pieces, one for each side, that are at that thickness, using this piece that fits on here, so that way I can stuff it in there. So we'll turn this down on the lathe real quickly, and then we'll start to begin assembly on this, and we'll see how this turns out. I suspect that it should go together. I don't see any reason why this stuff won't fit properly. I may have to do a little cleaning on the inside of the trailing arm in here, because it looks like they either got powder coat or paint on the inside where the bearing is supposed to go, so that might make it a little hard to push it in. Yeah, I'll look at that. I might have to sand out the inside of that just a little bit. But otherwise, that's really all there is to it. This is just a little something that I came up with because I'm not a rich man, and I'm not going to go and buy all the go-kart axle stubs and everything when I have all this stuff laying around that's not being used. So why not use it? And I even made this from a brake drum. See, that's the hub that's going to go on here. Now, it has a 4x130 Volkswagen lug pattern, but there's no reason why I couldn't drill it out to something else like 4x137, which annoys the crap out of me. You know, these UTVs had to have their own lug pattern, 4x137. Couldn't just use a 4x130 or the 4x110 like all ATVs do. UTVs had to go with a, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's 3.5 millimeters larger in diameter this way, or radius, I should say. So, yeah, these holes will not line up with the wheels that I'm thinking I'd like to put on here. So I may have to re-drill them. We'll see in time. I haven't gotten that far yet. Right now we want to install this thing and make sure all the bearings and everything fit and see if I need to recalculate or rethink anything. And of course there's the axle nut. And yes, using this and this together, I will be able to torque it down to proper Volkswagen specifications. And it's so nice that I'm able to do this because this is probably going to save me about $1,000 installing this rear end. So I don't need to buy a set of axles, I don't need to buy a set of stubs, I don't need to buy a whole set of these different weird-ass bearings because Volkswagen-sized bearings are relatively inexpensive. By the way, 2 of these were, I'm trying to remember, 2 of these bearings, I think they were $20 for 2, or 10 for $24.99. Well, that was a no-brainer. So I've got 10 of them, so even if they're cheap bearings and they blow out, guess what? I've got a ton of them. I can change them out in the future. So anyway, let's go ahead and throw this sucker up on the lathe. We'll see if we can get the sucker cut down so that way we can make it fit in here, and we'll start getting this assembly installed today. Looks good. And it looks like good old Icebox is cheering me on. Good boy, you were quiet through my whole introduction. Alright, you guys might remember I took the old hub from a Volkswagen drum and cut it out. I simply cut it out using a angle grinder right out of the drum this way. Then once I had the thing removed, I got it nice and round by spinning it on the lathe. Now a few folks asked me, you know, why didn't you just stuff it in the lathe and cut it down this way? And the honest answer is because, well, it doesn't fit. So for those of the experts that are out there that said they've been doing this stuff for 50 years, I should have asked a question as to why I didn't do it that way versus telling me that I'm doing it wrong. But this drum is surprisingly a little bit smaller than the other one, and it actually can chuck it, which is a surprise. Where the hell's my chuck tool? Here it is. This is kind of interesting because when I get this on here, if I run it, it will spin. You see, it is touching the rails, but it's not like gonna jump off or something because of the alignment. I did sand this down just a little bit while it was on there, and it does rub a whole lot less. So yes, I could cut into it. But once I ran my sled all the way forward, I found the sled hits the drum. And the only way to fix that is to make the tool get a lot longer and reach way out into there. But the trouble is, the longer you extend this, the more likely that tool is going to chatter, which means it's not going to cut straight. And this is all small lathe stuff. It's not the big A-bomb kind of Monarch lathe tooling. This just isn't. This stuff is smaller, delicate, and it's subject to a lot of flex. Now you might say, hey Duckman, why don't you just go ahead and put the drum in the opposite way? Well, we'll do that too, because I know everybody wants to know, and it's an honest and good question. This is not a hater thing. This is just a honest question people want to know. So I get it in there like that, right? Run this forwards. Once again, the sled will hit the drum about there, but I can extend this. This is the wrong tool, by the way, and I'm sure somebody already posted down in the comments. My cutting tool is somewhere around here. I think I dropped it, because last night there was a severe rainstorm, and I just started throwing shit around as I ran out to go grab the birds and bring them inside, because the tree branches were snapping, shit was blowing around the yard. It was almost like we got hit with a small tornado. My yard was a mess this morning. I had to go pick up tree branches, find all my missing tarps. Some of them were gone, but anyway, I digress. While I was standing here, because what I was cutting was squeaky, I had my headphones on, I didn't hear anything of what was going on outside, but I did see the lights flicker a bunch of times. When I finally turned around behind me, because the doorway is right there, it was pitch black at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was raining in the back door. So I ran out and grabbed the birds as fast as I could, as I said, and I just started throwing things, and I dropped it or something. It's around here. It hasn't gone far from this area, and there's not that much here to, anyway. So yeah, this arm, if I extend it over, it's still a little far, and it's even when it's tight, it's going to have that tendency to chatter. It's just, and it's just not going to get a clean cut. So the idea behind that is you want to make this as short as possible, and you want to make the little bit that's in there, the cutting tool, as short as possible, and then run it in and you're just fine. Now it does have a line on it, because I did attempt to do it just for grins, and as I said, it was just chattering way too much. It's just not going to work. This thing also needs a wheel bearing. Another reason why it chatters. It's good for what I do. I've never put any money into this lathe. This thing was gifted to me, and I'm more than happy to have it. It's come in usefulness more times than I can remember, and it's actually helped me to get a lot of jobs done. So what we're going to do here is we are going to still cut this drum down the way we did the last time by just running around here with the angle grinder using a cutting disc, and then throw it in the lathe and cut it back down until we get one of these. So that's the reason for all that. It was more of a Q&A thing. People really wanted to know why I didn't do that, and if it was even possible. And yeah, it would be possible. Certainly if I had a bigger lathe, it would be great. But this one is borderline, because that was about as big as anything that I could have chucked in here. And like I said, this drum was just a hair bigger. It wouldn't even fit on here. And you know what? I can see why it's bigger. Because it's all... Yeah, somebody tried to pry this one. You can see how it's all busted up and bent. That's why it was hanging up, because it's expanded. Yeah, it's all bent outwards. You can actually see it. So when it was trying to spin, it would dig into the rails and it would get stuck and it wouldn't allow the lathe to turn. The other one's not nearly that bad. So anyway, yeah, we're going to cut that out. What we're going to do today, though, is we're going to get this sucker mounted in the trailing arm with its new bearings and make sure everything fits. I need to make a spacer, so we'll do that here on the lathe and get that thing cut down, and we'll get this thing assembled because I want to see this trailing arm that's over here fully operational and functional with a Volkswagen axle. And that's the goal. So, let's hit it, right? Yes. Alright, looks like the Chinese spacer that we need to cut down is just slightly less than 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is we're going to cut it at... Masking tape, by the way, is typically 1 inch wide. I guess you probably should check it to calibrate it and make sure it's correct. Because some no-name tape company, like, you know, Fred's Tape or something, would probably be wrong or inaccurate, but... So we're going to cut it down to 1 inch, and then we'll just fine-tune it. Good. There it is. That's the piece that I need right there. Alright, wind this out of the way. Something here. Looks like it's straight. I don't think we have any run out at all. And even if there's a little bit, yeah, it's straight. That's straight. I don't even have to put a tool on there. Fantastic. I do have to change out to my cutting blade. You probably remember earlier in the video I did say I dropped it somewhere, so we gotta find that real quick. Alright, always with the safety goggles, guys. And I even have headphones here in case things get squeaky. Take all of our tooling off of here. I'm in the garage and you still hear all the noise outside. Alright, got my fan on me because I'm going to get a little warm. I always get warm doing this stuff. Here we go. Woohoo! I think we got it. Alright, just gonna cut a little chamfer on the inside because that's what the Volkswagen piece had here, so we'll cut a little beveled edge. Real easy to do. Just move the tool in about roughly a 45-degree angle. Just like that. Just to clean up any burrs if there are any. Yeah, that actually turned out pretty nice. Might be hot. Yeah, I see, not bad at all. There it is. There's the stock side, and there's my new side. And here's the thickness of the two pieces. Alright, that's ready to be installed. Let's try it out, see if she fits. Oh, and by the way, you can see some of that chattering that's in there. See in the reflection of the light, if it focuses on this okay? You can see it. It's not your typical machining marks. It actually has a drrrr where it was chattering against it. Needs new bearings, and all this stuff is all, yeah, anyway. It's good for what I use it for. I'm not complaining, because I got the lathe for free. We gotta take our new bearings. Nope, that's a China bearing. These are the new bearings. They gotta go in either side, but the spacer's gotta go in the middle. Just like that. Now what I have here is I have a bearing press tool, which I believe that one will fit. Try the next one up just for grins. No, that one's too big. Yeah, this one on here. Well, you know what? This one will work. Because this is going to be flush with the outside when we get it on there. In fact, you know, I probably can go with the size bigger just to make sure that it doesn't slip and slide. That one will go in there like that. And then on the back side, we'll pick another one for over here. Pull the bearing in all at the same time. I've got grease here. Gotta grease up. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Forgot to make sure that these surfaces inside of here are clear of paint. You see all that paint that's in there? That's gonna make the bearing really hard to push in. I'll grab just a piece of sandpaper and I'll clean it out. Shame I can't put this in the lathe. That'd be nice. And it's clean. And much better. Just ran around the inside with a little bit of sandpaper. Got the paint out of there. Looks like it's gonna be good to go. Now on the inside here, almost out of this grease, but we don't need very much. Just a thin layer of it. A little bit of axle grease on the inside here. So once you shove that bearing in, it's going to press all the grease out anyway, right? Anyway, whatever it's worth, it helps to make it a little easier to get in. And then once it's in there, should any moisture try to get in there, the grease will repel it. That means it'll be easier someday to replace these bearings. So, okay, here we go. Let's see. Now this guy, our spacer, I'm going to grease the outside of it, which might seem a little peculiar, but again, this is going in a place where it's actually going to be floating in space. It's not actually going to be in contact with anything, but while it's in there, should any moisture get on it, the idea is to try to keep it clean. What the hell is that awful sound? Can't get nothing done out here without a bunch of ruckuses. Alright, spacer goes in from the back. Put our other bearing in this side. Okay. Now, we've got our bearing, what do they call it? Bearing driver. I'm going to put this on the back side here with a bolt, this on the front side with a bolt. And if this works as I expect it to, I should be able to tighten the nut, and as the bolt compresses, it should push that bearing in straight. That's the theory anyway, right guys? Because you try not to hammer on brand new bearings because you don't want to screw them up. It's real easy to do that. Ask me how I know. Well, it's going in, but it's going in a little bit crooked. We'll have to make a little adjustment here. What happened? My nut came off. Looks like I'm going to have to use the driver as prescribed, because bolting it together, pushing everything in a little bit crooked, and I can't hold it that straight. Boomer, quit drinking that nasty rusty water. Get out of there. Get out of you. You dummy. Drinking the water that I have a bunch of metal sitting in. It's just disgusting. Okay. Well, this is the bearing driver. This is how it works. This goes on here. Like that. You put your nut in the, or bolt in the other side. You come on the back here, and then you whack with a mallet. In my case, I'm going to use a light hammer, and we'll get that whacked in there. At least get it straight anyway, then I think we can use the bolt again. I missed it while I had the camera off, but I couldn't find my light hammer, so, you know, by the power of Thor. Anyway, I just gently tapped the bearing like that, and it went straight. It took virtually no effort at all. So we'll go back to trying this bearing press. Push these suckers back in again. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe Biddy will shut up. Biddy, Biggaroo. Nobody wants to hear your noise. Alright, here we go. Alright, here it goes. Oh, that went right in. On both sides even. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Alright, back and back out. This bearing on this side has to go in a little further than that. So let's see, was this one going to go in there? Nope. One size smaller, I think. Well, maybe 2 sizes smaller. 3 sizes smaller, that one. Put this in here, and this way. That bearing actually gets recessed. It has to go in roughly 6 millimeters. That has to tighten the bolt. The bearing's going in by hand. Interesting. Alright, here we go. And it's in. Okay, fantastic. One bearing driven in this side. See our spacer on the inside there. Got the bearing driven in on the back side. Also good. Bearings are not seized nor chunky feeling, so I didn't do any damage to them. Very nice. Now I got a seal for this that's 1 millimeter thinner than the factory seal that would have been on here otherwise, because that bearing was 1 millimeter wider, so I compensated for it. And you can see that here by looking at the is this no, these are both the new seals. Let's see, the new and the old seal. You see the new one in my left hand here is actually a little bit thicker, or thinner rather, than the other one. So that should go in there. And then using that bearing driver if I need to, and actually I should be greasing this first anyway. Seals like a little lube. Seals love lube. Oh, seals just love lube, especially walruses. Walruses really love lube. And that's the reason why the walrus went to the Tupperware party. That's why he brought lube with him, because he was looking for a tight seal. Alright, well, that goes in there. See if this is the right size. No, is this one the right size? Yes. Okay, where's my driver at? Right here. Put this in there, and gently tap it, and it should go right in. Seals usually drive in pretty easy. Alright, we're sealed. Fantastic. Okay. Pick up a little bit of this stuff here. I got too much out and about. What the hell's going on here? I got pieces in the wrong slots. Did I drop one? I'm missing one. Missing 2 actually. That goes in there, that one goes in there. Got our driver, got our bolt. This bearing driver set was actually missing recently. It belongs to my friend Rob. He loaned it to me, took it back, and somehow it ended up back over here again after that. Probably dumped it on me, and he does that with tools sometimes. He just wants them out of his sight. You know, I'm not going to handle this stuff here. You know, get it out of my sight. Hey, that seal's squeezing out. I wonder why it's squeezing out. That's interesting. Like a ping pong ball in there. Look at that. Guess we need to fix that, don't we? You know what I'm going to do? Rather than beat on it, we're going to pull it right back in using the driver method. Yeah, sure. Lose a washer over here. I thought I had another washer. I guess I don't have to have another washer, but it would have been nice, and I wouldn't scuff up the tool. And of course the washer just turned up. Alright, ran that seal back in again. without beating on it, which is nice because you don't want to start beating on the bearings or mashing up the seal. I wonder why it's squeezed out to begin with. It's in there good now, though. Ideal. Alright, now, Volkswagen axles can be a little tricky to get in the bearings sometimes because they do have a very, very snug fit. The spacer is in there. They should go in just like that. Come on now, there it goes. This is where it starts to get tight. The axle is slightly tapered from here to here. It actually gets thicker over here. And if this is wallowed for some reason because it was the bearings had spun on the shaft, it will wear this out and you'll end up with a bad axle. And that's a common problem for people that don't tighten up their axle nuts. But you get to about this point, which is about what I expected, and I'm probably going to have to drive it in gently on the back. Yeah, it's going. I should be using a piece of wood on that, though. What I'm doing here is a big no-no. Alright, we'll try this again with a block of wood. Look at that. Making sure that bearing isn't popping out. Hanging up for some reason, though. Are we gonna have an issue? No, there's plenty of clearance. Boy, that is a close fit, though. We're talking 1/4 of an inch between the CV cup and the swing arm. Less. And yeah, we're still not all the way in. Still got to go more. Quite a bit more. There's not that many threads left on the axle. Guess we're going to be repeating this process for a little bit until it actually goes to where it needs to be. I don't want to beat on it, like I said, too much more because it's just going to mangle the bearings. So we'll just keep threading this on and drawing it in. Still looks like it needs about another less than 1/2 inch. Alright, well, back this off one more time. Now ordinarily I wouldn't have to go through this much effort, but because this is not as thick as a Volkswagen trailing arm is, I have to draw it in even further than I normally would. Let's see. Think that'll get it? Maybe. Maybe. Nope, too much. Take one off. Put the nut on there. Go. Further. That actually might be it. I think it still needs just a little bit more. Yeah, not much more, a little bit more. And I'm probably going to have to make a spacer for the outside of the axle. And actually I have the option to decide as to how far I want the offset on this, so I can set my track width on the rear. I can customize it. Oh, I broke the tool. Oh, don't you just love when that happens? Look at that. Ow, hot. It busted right off. See that? Alright, I gotta go find another one. Really don't believe it, but I managed to get that little broken bit out. This is not the same tool, but that's what it looked like. Out of that impact. I had to take the little collet off, and then using a punching it through a slot that was on the side, and just kept tapping it until it went pew right out in the vise. Anyway, it's good. Duckman, did you know you can break off your impact driver with your impact driver? I haven't heard that one yet. Anyway, the reason why it broke is actually because I bottomed it out. I checked, and this thing is actually as far in as I want it to go. So it's sitting right there right now on its spacers, bottomed out. Now what I need to figure out is where I want this to be. Now I could put spacers on either side of this hub, either on the inside or the outside, and I can push this back and forth and figure out exactly where I want the offset to be. It's actually about as far as the offset will let me go, come to think of it, because that's the end of the splines. But that doesn't mean I can't knock this back out and put another spacer on the back side of it and push this inboard a little more. Okay, that gives me an idea as to what we got. So this is effectively done, because now when it comes time to install this, all I need to do is figure out where I want my spacers to be at, and then we'll bolt it down permanently. But otherwise, you're looking at it right here. First time probably in the world that this has ever been done on this trailing arm. Hey, spinning on those bearings nice and free. No rubbing sounds, no scratchiness. It looks like it's going to be just good. Perfect. Okay. That gets this step done, and now we're ready to move on to the next thing on that go-kart, and that is, well, kind of figuring out where we're going to get these things mounted. I'm still waiting for the second arm to come in, the right-hand side. You remember, they sent me two left-hand sides with this thing. I talked to the company about that, and they were actually very apologetic and very cool about the whole thing. They apologized because it wasn't them who shipped it, it was their vendor who shipped it. And when I had the conversation with them, we had a couple laughs. They had said it came out of whatever warehouse it was from their vendor that got sent to me, and when they did, there was two left hands in the right-hand bin, so they gave me a lefty out of one and one, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, they had to go upstream to their vendor to find out exactly what the hell happened. And they were not happy about having to do all this extra work, but nonetheless, they were very, very apologetic. And they told me that it's probably going to take anywhere between 30 and 90 days to see a new arm. And that's because their vendor that shipped the wrong one actually has to make new ones. So it's going to be a little while until we see it. So I'm kind of at a stopping point anyway. These are not symmetrical as we had discovered before. So I can't just take this and put it on the right side and figure out my calculations. I mean, the mounting points I can. But actually where it ends up at over here would probably be a little bit different. But with that said, when I had them on the phone, I said, you guys are well known for running a reputable business, right? He says, yeah. I said, and you've actually been doing very good customer service, and you never had any problems until you started using this new vendor. And he says, yeah. So I said, let me get this straight. You're trans-vendored. That's correct. The pause was about that long until the guy started laughing. And anyway, I made his day. He said, I can't believe it. He said, I thought you were going to be mad at me. He said, this is a call I didn't want to have to make. He says, you've been really cool. He says, what I'd like to do is give you a shipping label. He says, I'll send the one back. He says, or I can give you a refund and you can send them both back. And I really apologize heavily. I said, well, I need them for the project. So I tell you what, we'll do our thing for the next 90 days. You see if you can get me the part. In hindsight, however, when I looked at all their competitors' websites, everybody's out of the right-hand one. So it's not just them. So that manufacturer, that vendor that shipped that arm for them actually apparently provides them to everybody else just the same, which doesn't surprise me because when it comes to this Chinese manufactured stuff, that's usually the way it goes. All right, well, I guess that's it for today. Hope you guys got a laugh and a smile out of that one. So licky, likey, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to pluck that dingle belly so you get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all of my different social media links, and we'll be back probably with more on this, as well as the KT301, that's right, my Coleman KT301 go-kart, because that go-kart is now about to receive some surgery because I can't tighten the chain up on it anymore. The jack shaft that's on there, that mount, you may have seen it when you watched me put the thing together, and it was a little twisted, and it turns out that's actually a flaw in the KT196. A stock engine will actually tweak that jack shaft and pull the chains out of alignment, which causes your chains to constantly come loose. Well, with the 301, I now have 80% more torque, so it's 80% more likely to twist that thing up. So what I need to do is I need to come up with a longer shaft that bridges between both arms of the mount. That's another subject for another video, but we're going to get that fixed up probably this week, also probably for a video next weekend. So thanks for watching, everybody. Check out DuckShit.net for all my social media links, and if you'd like to contact me, once again, DuckShit.net, or email me at DuckmanCycles@DuckShit.net. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Alright, just figured I wanted to show up close the clearance here. That's how close it is to the CV joint on the trailing arm, and it's even closer on the underside there, but plenty of room. Plenty of room. There won't be any flex over there that's going to cause any issues as long as I keep these CV joints nice and tight with a proper set of German bolts, not them Chinese bolts that stripped out like I had the problem with on Ruby. But, yeah, once again, there's the setup. I think that worked out pretty nicely. One of a kind. Hell yeah. That's Duckman style for you.